welcome back. So in this video, we're going to be going through and doing our first real world challenge. So you can see here that I've built a tiny website, nothing really much on it, but this is designed to get you familiarized with the topics and properties that we've learned over the last few videos and really integrate them into a project that can, really let you know how to use these properties and topics in the real world. So I've left a description down here talking about the challenge. Basically, what we're going to do is add a couple of transitions, one to the title and one to the menu items. So the title is going to be focused solely on transitioning the color, while the menu items have to both grow in size and change color. So you can see some of the specifics here. And also, both of the transitions need to have a 1 second duration and an ease out timing function. So go through, familiarize yourself with the HTML that's going on here. Just look at how things are set up and how you're going to go through.
Alright, so we do go as challenge to add two transition to the website. One to the title to change it color. To another menu, make it grow to 2.5 and change color on hover. To change it color to on hover, and another color, another to the menu items to make them look alright. Yep. Let's put it here. Let's write the code here, and then we copy it to the other side. Let's do style. Should do style. What we need to do, transition. Add one transition to the website. Add two transition. One to the title. So title dot title. Hover color. Copy this. Alright, that's good. And add another to the menu items. So menu items. Menu items. Color. Hover. Colors. Same colors. It's good. And then transition will be added from the ground up, including pseudo class selectors and the transition themselves. All transitions need to have a duration of 1 second and use the ease out timing function. Easy. Copy this. Put it right here. Alright, menu item, transition, all 1 second, and ease out. Say ease out timing function, or need to have a duration of 1 second, and use the ease out timing function. Okay, transition or 1 second, ease out. Menu items. Transition. Ease out. Colors. Class. Menu items. To the menu items. So the link should be the link instead. And then we put this menu link. There we go. It's good. Okay.
Doing this. All right. Good luck. To the bottom, and now we're to a second. The easiest way to do this would just be go and then it grows. So there we go. That's one part of the battle done. Now let's go ahead and focus on our transitions. So we're going to go ahead and find the base for them. Now for the title, since later on, what I said in the, you can see that it changes the color right there, and it takes 1 second.
Oh,
now,
there's a grow as well. Make them grow to 2.5 M. Menu items, font size 2. 2.5 M. Okay.
Now, it may be a little hard to notice the ease out since the animation is quite short, but it is there. So now let's go ahead and focus on our menu items. So let's, oh, sorry, not menu item, menu link, since that's the text. So let's go ahead and add our transition, set where to add them.
Pretty sure I'm right.
Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be moving on to animation. So we're going to be talking about what animations are, what they do, and how to work with them. So just like with the previous section, this video is going to be solely focused on a demonstration of what animations can be used for. So we're not going to be doing any learning or covering any new properties. But right here, I have an animation of a little box that is actually moving around and changing colors, and it is looping over and over again. So this is done entirely in CSS, and by the end of this section, you will be able to recreate this perfectly. So that's pretty much what animations can do. Instead of having to be limited to when a certain state is covered or when maybe you're hovering over an element, this animation can be used to apply to any object and for any number of properties. And not just that, you can actually set up multiple steps so that you don't have to just go from one point to the other. So animations can be used for a variety of things, and they are very useful when it comes to making a site interactive and making it look good. So this was done entirely in CSS, and if we just go ahead and visit the style sheet now, this is kind of what you're going to learn to do at the end of the section. So feel free to go through and kind of explore this and play around with it if you want. You will learn to do all of this in the coming videos, but for now, this is what we have, and this is what we're kind of going to be working towards, and this will produce an animation of this sort. So animations are a lot more powerful. This is just going to give you the basis of how to create them, but you can use them for any number of things. The possibilities when it comes to using animations are pretty much limitless. So don't just feel limited to doing something similar to this, maybe a box. I really do encourage you to go and really play around with animations and see what you can do. All right, let's move on. Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to focus on defining and creating our animations. So what we're going to do is go through and use a special property or system in CSS to create these animations, and then in the future videos, we are going to apply them. So one thing that make animations a little different from transitions is that you define them standalone from properties or elements. They aren't dependent on pseudo classes or anything like that. So what we're going to do is use a special little system here to create these animations, and then we can apply them to any element we want. So they're not dependent or focused on single elements. So what we're going to do here is type out at keyframes, and what this is going to do is specify the keyframes for a specific animation. And what's going to happen is here is basically we're going to set the steps that the animation is going to have to go through. So for example, it changes to the color red and then changes its width and then changes its height, and you get the idea. So let's go ahead and get started. So once we type keyframes, what we're going to do is set the name of the animation. Now, don't worry about any of this. We're going to cover this stuff in a future video, but this is going to be the name that you want to give the animation. So because I just want to do something simple, I'm going to call it grow. And then we're going to open it up with some curly braces. So now there are two different ways you can go through here. You can either use one or two lines to basically set the starting animation, the starting animation properties and the final animation properties. So you're only going to be allowed two steps from start to finish, or you can use percentages to specify multiple steps in the animation, and we're going to go through and do both of them here. So the first thing we're going to do is do the start to finish method. So what we're going to do is type from, open up some curly braces, and then type to just below that and open up some curly braces. So in these curly braces here, next to from, is going to be the starting properties that we're going to be using, and to is going to be the finishing. So let's just say from, we want the width to be 50 pixels. Now, the reason that I'm typing this out is sometimes the starting properties won't always be the same as the normal properties that the animation is given. So for example, here we have 50 pixels and all of that. But let's say, for example, that we want the starting properties to be 100 pixels or 200. Maybe we want to change the color. So we'll get more into that kind of stuff in the future videos when we talk about fill modes. But for now, let's just go ahead and set the width to 50 pixels, the height to 50 pixels, and the color to red. Or sorry, the background to red, not the color. Red. Okay, so now we have our starting properties. Let's go ahead and talk about our finishing. So whatever we want to change, we are going to include in here. And you need to be really careful with this because sometimes over time things may change that you don't expect them to. So for example, the width could change to 100 pixels and you don't expect it to. So you need to be explicit about all the properties that you want to change here. So what I'm going to do is set our width to 50 pixels, the height to 100 pixels, and then I'm just going to set the background to green, just like that. So now what this is going to do is it's going to keep the width at 50 pixels. It's going to increase the height and change the background. So there we go. This is what you do. Now let's go ahead and open up our browser and see how this looks. And you can see that it grows just like that. Now it does reset, and that's because we haven't specified a couple certain properties, which we're going to discuss later, but you can see that the animation does work. Now let's talk about the second way of doing it. So now let's say we wanted to have multiple steps. So if you watch the previous video, you'll see that it went and it increased the width and then it increased the height. So what if we wanted to do that? Well, what we can do is use percentages to specify at what part of the animation do we want things to change. So the percentage equivalent of this would be 0% and 100%. But the main advantage of doing this is you can also add other steps. So for example, 50%, and then we can specify things here. So let's say I wanted to increase the width as well and add an extra color step. What I would do is set the width to 100 pixels, and again, be explicit. You want to keep the height at 50 pixels, and the background to blue, for example. Now let's go ahead and run our animation, and you can see it does that change first. And this is what I was saying about being explicit. You can see, let's say we wanted the width to stay the same. We need to make sure that it is there. So let's go ahead and refresh one more time. And now you can see the full animation runs through with 3 steps. So just to recap, we have this keyframes.
What if
We can set the keyframes
I
using
can do
this syntax.
this? Is transition going to be the same? Let's test that. Box, hover, but there's not going to be step. What if I do this? Let's clear out this, clear this, and let's test it with a transition. So we do transition. Oh, 1 second. Oh, that's good. Let's do ease, and then we do width 100 pixel. Shit. Kurva. And then height 100 pixel. Then we do colors, background. Let's do green. Same things. There's no step on this. That's all right.
Right here, and we can set the name. We have 2 ways of specifying our animation. We can use either the from to with method, which allows for 2 steps, start and finish, or we can use percentages to set certain steps in between the start and the finish. And finally, you have to make sure to be explicit. The rule of thumb here is just to make sure that you include all the properties you want to change throughout each step. That way you aren't missing any pieces or anything like that. So I encourage you to go ahead and give this a try. If you want, go ahead and edit this and maybe add some extra steps, see what you can do, maybe mess around with some other properties and just really get a feel for defining keyframes. All right, so for a quick challenge here, I am going to ask you to create an animation called Grow. You have to keep that name the same. And I want it to start with a width and height of 100 pixels and a color of blue, and it will shrink to a width and height of 10 pixels and a color of red. All right, good luck.
Add keyframe. Then we need to name it, call this grow. Then we do, so it go 50% from width 100 pixel, commas, height 100 pixel, the color green, BG green, commas, to this width of 100 of 10 pixel, and then comma height. He should like include the instruction here, so it's going to be easier, right? Background BG blue. Let's test it. So it doesn't show the red just print onto the screen, and then there's no run when this animation run. Just completely go to 100, right? 100. Just go back. Got it?
So let's go ahead and get started. Only get a height of 10 pixels. Hi, welcome back. So in this video, I am going to be teaching you how to add animations and to edit their timing. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, in the previous video, you may have seen some properties that I added to this box class to allow the animation to run. Well, in this video, we're actually going to be going through and learning how to do it. So the first thing you're going to need is this property called animation name. Now this is going to allow you to specify the name of the animation that you want to use, and this is the name you're going to get from your keyframes here. So in this case, it's going to be grow. The next thing we're going to set is the animation duration. So this is going to be how long the animation runs for. So let's go ahead and say 2 seconds. Now, this alone will be enough to run the animation. But now let's go through and set 2 more properties that we can use to work with animations and sort of mess around with them a little bit. So the first, which is quite simple and self-explanatory, is animation delay. So this is going to be the delay before the animation starts on page load. So let's say, for example, 1 second. We go ahead and refresh. It takes 1 second, and then the animation runs. So remember, when a delay happens and whenever the animation runs, it is going to start from the 0% or the initial start defined by the keyframes. It's not going to take these properties unless they are the same as the ones set here. So whatever properties are set here, it's going to take it straight from there. The next property we're going to cover is animation iteration count. So this is going to specify how many times you want the animation to run. So this can be a number. So for example, we want it to run 3 times. We go ahead and refresh the page. We have that delay, and it runs 3 times just like that. So that's good, and you can set the number of times you want it to run. But one of the most useful features here, I think, is infinite. So this is basically going to say that the animation should run, well, infinitely. It just runs indefinitely until you close out of the page. So this can be used for a variety of things, and when we combine it with some of the other properties, you can basically set up a sort of loop that allows the animation to seamlessly run, not like this where it's kind of chopping back and forth, but will allow it to look like it is going in a true loop. So those are the 4 properties I wanted to cover here, and these all have to do with timing. Now let's go ahead and start with a little challenge. I'm going to go ahead and erase all of this. So let's go ahead and just change this name to first animation. So what the challenge here is I want you to add this animation to the box, give it a duration and delay of 1 second, and set the iteration count to 4. All right, good luck.
Say it again.
Duration and delay of 1 second to the box. Give it a duration and delay of 1 second.
Okay, first of all, we need animation. Can we do AM? Right, we do first animation. Comments, we do animation AD, AD, right, comments, AN duration, AND, and then what else? What else do we need? Animation.
And set the iteration count to 4.
ANI iteration.
All right, good luck.
So 4. What else?
duration count to duration and delay of 1 second.
1s, 1s. Right. Run. Wow. 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 So it's on full time.
And set the iteration animation. Set the finally we are now just if you did it any other way and you end up with that result, good for you. Then maybe you went out on your own and researched a little bit, but this will allow you to basically get those exact results using these 4 properties. All right, let's move on.
Animation on the property.
Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to be going over a couple other properties that we can use to customize our animations. Now, these aren't going to be really focused on timing, but instead it's going to be focused on how the animation plays out, its direction, and how it really behaves. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one I want to talk about is the animation timing function. So just like with transitions, this is going to allow us to specify how we want to work with our functions here. So what we're going to do is going to go through and we're going to say ease or ease in, and this is just going to specify the speed of our animation. So let's go ahead and just set it as ease here. Now I'm going to go ahead and refresh, and you can see here that it kind of has that feel. You can see it slow down towards the end. So the next one I want to talk about is animation direction. So this one is new, and it's basically going to specify how we want our animation to play out. So the default is it just goes through from start to finish, no real changes. But here we can actually say if we want it maybe to go backwards, or if we want it to alternate between backwards and forwards. So for example, this box could shrink and then grow again. So let's go ahead and look at that. So the default value for this is normal, so that's basically from start to finish, nothing crazy. And then we have reverse. So this is going to, well, reverse our animation and basically go from finish to start. You can see that here. You can see it starts as a red box and grows to that large blue box. We also have 2 other properties, or sorry, values, which are alternate, which basically just oscillates between start and finish, starting from the beginning one. So this starts from our large blue box, and then we have alternate reverse. So this is just like alternate, but instead of starting from the actual start, it actually starts from the finish. So it's going to start as that tiny red box and then grow and go back and forth. So if we refresh here, we wait over that delay, and it grows back and forth, just like that.
Okay.
So the final one I want to talk about, which is a little bit complicated because it can depend on the conditions here, is animation fill mode. Fill mode. So what this is going to do is basically specify what styles we want to apply to our box here, or in any element with our animation, after the animation is complete. So right now you can see that it looks a little bit choppy after the animation is finished. We don't know what to do. But in this case, we can actually, for example, finish and apply the styles at the finish line. Now, the reason this is a little complicated to understand is because it also depends on the direction and the iteration count of our function here, or sorry, our animation. So for example, if we have alternate reverse and we have the iteration count 5 times, for example, it could finish at the start and you may get a little confused. But I'd recommend, just experimenting with this a little bit and, really getting the feel for it. So just to make things a little simpler, I'm going to remove or comment out the iteration count and the direction. So it just goes from start to finish once. So just to make sure, let's refresh. There we go.
Okay.
Now you can see it goes back to that blue box. But what we want to do is if we want it to finish on our final property or our final styles, we set this value to forwards. So we refresh, you can see it finishes and it stays there. Or we can set it to backwards, which in this case is going to set it to the beginning. So we refresh, it shrinks, and then it sets to the beginning values. And then we also have a special value called both. And what this is going to do is follow both rules, but it also depends, and this is mainly used for things like alternate and alternate reverse, and this is basically going to depend on where it finishes. It's just going to get the styles of wherever it finishes based on the animation. So if I go ahead and uncomment this out, change the iteration count and all of that, and we refresh, you can see it has all of these crazy maneuvers. We don't know where it's going to end, but that both property is going to allow us to finish it right there. And so that's pretty much it. So we have forwards, backwards, and both. And that's going to allow you to specify what we want and basically just, make sure that we can get our animation to finish on the right spot. So now it's time for a little challenge. I want you to set the timing function of this animation to ease in. I want it to alternate starting
Right. Animation timing function. Any timing function. There we go. What is it? Ease in.
from the beginning and alternate back and forth. And I want this animation to ease in. I
Ease
want it
in.
to alternate starting from the
Alternate.
beginning and alternate back and forth. And I want it to finish and
Right. So first of all, ease in. And commas ANI. What is it? Alternate. This is the right one. Not too sure.
retain the same alternate starting from the actual beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Animation, direction,
Direction. Animation, direction. It's going to be backwards.
files finished on.
Alternate. 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 Let's try. In, out, in, out, in, out.
Get started. So the first thing we want to do is our finish property, and then we want to use the both value. So this is going to allow us to set the styles based on wherever the animation finishes. Let's go ahead and check this out. We refresh. You can see it has that ease, the iterations play through, and then it finishes on the correct style with the correct timing function. All right, so good job. You finished that challenge. And now we're going to bring all of this together and first of all use a shorthand to, combine all these properties and then complete a large challenge. All right, let's move on. Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be learning a shorthand to combine 6 of these animation properties into one line. Just like we did with the transition section, there is a single property that allows us to shorten this whole thing and combine it into a single property. So this property is called animation, and it basically goes in the order that you see here. So it starts with the name, which is going to be grow, then the duration, which is 1 second. I'm basically just taking all of these values from here. Then our timing function, which is going to be ease in.
Ease in.
Then our delay, 1 second. Our iteration count, 4. And finally, our direction, which is alternate. So it does look quite intimidating, but as long as you, get this order down, you will get it in no time. Now, if you notice, there is no fill mode included in this animation.
So it's default
So
value.
if you want to set the fill mode at all, most people don't really, it's not really commonly used, but if you want
Mm.
to, you can add it in on top of this
No, okay.
shorthand. So let's go ahead and comment this out. Now let's go ahead and check out the animation. So I'm going to refresh, and then you see it does the exact same thing as it did before with all the shrinking, and then of course we use the fill mode on top of the shorthand to animate it. All right, so now it's time for a little challenge. So I want you to use the shorthand to apply this animation to this box. It needs to have a 1 second duration and no delay at all. It's going to have a timing function of ease. It's going to alternate, so it's going to start and then keep going back and forth from the start, and it's going to run forever. All right, good luck.
So animation. Okay, so first of all is the name. Then we want an ease. And then alternate. Infinite. Right? Is it infinite first or alternate first? I think it's infinite first and then alternate. Ah, shit. Let's see what happens. Run. Nothing happens. So this alternate and then infinite. Run. Nope. Let me see. Grow. Oh, 1 second. You need, forgot the delay and the duration. So infinite, alternate, time. So we need one duration and then 1 second. Right, let's see. Yep. Why is it not alternating? Alternate reverse.
To animate it. All right, so now it's time for it going for a second. We want it to run forever, so we're going to use infinite for it. So the animation like reverse. Now, if we did this, the animation would only run a. Oh, sorry. Well, not the direction. We're not going to change the direction. Let's say we wanted to change this, to maybe 2 iterations. This is a finite number, and it would it for animation and complete a large challenge. All right, let's move on.
All right. Let me go to the toilet break first.
Hi, welcome back. So now it's time for a large challenge to summarize this animation section. So what I'm going to let you do is create an animation called supersize, which basically takes this tiny box that's on the screen, grows it to 20 pixels, then changes the color to red, and then grows it to 50 pixels and changes the color to green. So that's the basis of the animation. It's going to last 2 seconds. It's going to have the color to red on the screen, an animation called supersize.
Supersize. Right, so box animation. ANN. Supersize. Supersize. What's next?
Which basically takes this tiny box that's on the screen, grows it to 20 pixels,
Grow it to 20 pixels.
then changes the color to red, and then grows it to 50 pixels and changes the color to green.
So red, green. Right, got it. So we do this. First of all, we do keyframes, and then we do supersize. So do
20 pixels, then changes the color to red. Tiny box that's on the screen, grows it to 20 pixels, then changes the color to red, and then grows it to 50 pixels and changes the color to green. So that's the basis of the animation.
Got it. So we do a from, and we do width 20 pixel, height 20 pixel. Then we do colors. Red. Then we do a 2 with 50 pixel. Okie dokie. 8 50 pixel. And do BG. Green. Do. Then we do, yeah, let's do animation. Supersize. 1 second duration, 1 second delay. What else? We need an ease.
It's going to last 2 seconds. It's going to have a timing function of ease out, changes the color to green. So that's the basis of the animation. It's going to last 2 seconds. It's going to have a timing function of ease out. There isn't going to be a delay.
So once 2 second, ease out, 0 second delayed. So maybe we don't need to specify it. And what
Takes
else?
this tiny box. So that's the basis of the function of ease out. There isn't going to be a delay, and it's going to run 4 times, and it's going to alternate between start and finish.
Alternate 4 and then alternate. Okay, let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Try. Yep. Pretty much 4 times.
All right, good luck, and I'll see you do it. And the color, which in this, and a background color of green.
Oh, you want to start at
just like that.
blue?
So now we have defined the animation. Now we have to go through and add it. So instead of defining all those properties, we're going to go ahead and use is finished with the styles that we finish on. And the reason I'm using both and not forwards or backwards, depending on how this ends, is in case we want to edit this later on. This will always separate.
Okay.
Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to be going ahead and creating another animation real world challenge that involves all of the topics and properties that we've learned over the last few videos. So we're going to be creating and animating, or well, we're just going to be animating a landing page today. So I've created a little template to work with. And so what we're going to be doing is going through and animating all of this. So let's go ahead and read some of the details. First thing we're going to do is fade in this background and expand it. So it's going to expand from left to right, and it's also going to fade in. Now that's going to happen over the course of 1.5 seconds. Then there's going to be a 0.5 second delay, and then this text will fade in over the course of 1 second. So this is all going to happen consecutively. It's all going to happen in sequence in that order. And just to finish things off, all of these styles should be retained when the animation ends. So let's get started.
Alright, your task is to create two animations that will first cause the background to fade in and expand in width from left to right, then fade in text and fade the text in the centers. The first animation should take 1.5 seconds, followed by so two animation. So let's do style. There's no autofill in Scrimba. And then we do first animation. So animation, let's call this first animation. First animation should take, then fade in the text in the centers. Fade in and expand in width from left to right. What does he mean by that, from left to right? Then fade in the text in the centers. The first animation should take 1.5 seconds. Followed by 0.5 second delayed. Fade in. Both animations should have an ease out. Ease out 0.5 second delayed. And then 1 second for the fade in. Both animation have an ease out timing function and run once. So I'm assuming here what we can write here is, let's do the title forward. Alright, keyframe. First fade in the centers. 1 second ease out. 0 second delay. Run for 1. And then what do I need here? Forwards, I'm assuming. Animation fill mode. First, and we do this. We do start at this position. So 0%. And then 50. Expanded width from left to right. Okay, maybe the background. Okay, not the background. So the background start at width 0, right, and then at 50%, we do a width 25%. Try that. Run. Keyframe first. Why is it not working? Should run for ease out forwards. Fade in and expand in the width from the left to right. Expanding from width left to right. Forwards. So first is take. The first animation is going to take 1.5 seconds. It's going to have an ease out. Run for once. And then what if I can do alternate? No, forwards. 25%. Copy, paste, and do 50. Here is 50%. 100. It's going to be 100%. Nothing happens. So the background size, maybe the background size. %. Copy this, put it right here, and right here. So we do 25%, 50%, 100%. Let's run. What? Why is it not running?
States, remove that transparency that we have here. So this is our expansion, our background animation here. Now we have to create a second.
This has to be an expand. Come on. Like opacity? Really? Opacity? I thought it say fade in and expand in from. Oh, fade in. Okay, got it. Opacity 0%. What? Is it not running? Fade in. Two. Opacity 1. Let's do like a 10-second. The hell? Not running.
A second set of keyframes for our.
What does it need to do with disaster? I feel like this is such bait, right? Because the say fill in and then fade in and then a lot of things.
Other for our text. So I'm going to say.
And I cannot run this. .5. Let's do forwards. And then there's something wrong with my pictures. I don't know. I don't know what is wrong. Jesus Christ.
Just call this fade in. And we're also going to use the from to since we don't really need to add multiple states. So I'm going to say from. We're going to set the opacity to 0% here. And then our to statement. So this is going to be opacity 1.
0%. 100%. Now run. Doesn't do anything. For Christ's sake.
100%. Now that's all we're putting in here since we don't need to, expand the width or change the color or anything. All the huge wide range of animation, our background. Fade. Now, next thing we want to do is set the duration. So we're going to say animation duration. This is 1.5 seconds. There we go. Now let's go ahead and see what else we need to work with here. So the timing function, of course, animation timing function, which is going to be ease out. And finally, the styles that need to be retained. So we're going to use the animation fill mode for this. And I'm just going to set it to both as a precaution, of course, in case we want to change the animation later on, or make it
Shit
repeat.
challenge. Look at this text. It can be into sentence. I don't know. And it's on the HTML file. Let's put it onto the JavaScript. TCSS. Yay. And here when I run it, it cannot be run. The hell? Maybe I'm missing something here.
Repeat multiple times,
Skip
maybe
this.
change the direction. We're just going to keep it at both for now. So we have all of that set up. Let's go ahead and refresh the page and see if it works. So you can see that the background works just fine.
He do fill in duration. So one function here. Where's the fade in? Damn. Expand. Where's the fade in? Is he taking it from here as well? I don't know. Like this challenge sounds like ass.
And we're going to set the opacity and animation here. Now we have to create a second set of keyframes for our for our text. So I'm going to say
text. I don't see anything. I don't see the text. Doesn't say fade in. What? When I run my code, it doesn't run. Is it like a bug or something? Let's copy the same code. Maybe that is because of this. I say fade in here, it doesn't do anything. What if I do one animation? There we go. If only one animation is good, but two animation, okay. Got it.
already 1.5 elapsed seconds. So let's go ahead and add the animation delay for our keyframes. I really do encourage you to go experiment with this a little bit since you're just trying to get into the real world way of doing things. So go ahead and see if you can add a couple more properties, maybe add percentages instead of just from to, change some of the actual properties themselves. So if you want to change the timing function, maybe some special styles to retain after the animation is complete, go ahead, play around with it and see what you can do. All right, let's move on. Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to move on from animations and start looking at some of the effects and special CSS
let's
tricks that we can use to enhance our animation skills. So in this section, we're going to be learning about transforms and transform methods. So basically what these are certain methods and values that what's going to happen is the animation is going to run it through. And so here, this box will have those transforms applied to it so we can see what's going on. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, what we're going to use here is something called the transform property. And what you do is you type this sort of function, it looks like a function, and you pass some values into it. And what this function will do is transform, hence the name of the property, the element in some way. So you can see that for the box itself, I actually already used a transform to move it to the center. And what you can see here is we have this function, so it has brackets, and then what this does is basically you give the transform property this function, and it's going to translate our box by a certain amount. So that's a little intro to it, and in this video we are going to be talking about the scale property or transform. So let's go ahead and get started. Now the first thing you need to know about the transform property, is the multiple methods that you can use to work with it. So typically you're just going to be inserting one transform, so in this case is the translate property, but this can also be used in multiple ways. So for example, this is translating it on both the X, so the horizontal, and the Y or vertical axes. But if you wanted to translate it in one axis alone, there's a separate function for that. In the case of scale, that would be scale X. So if I'm going to go ahead and type scale X here, and in here, we're going to input the value that we want it to scale by as a multiple of its own size. So for example, if I put a 2 in here, it's going to double in size on the X scale. If we look at the animation here, you can see that on the horizontal axis, it is doubling in size. We can also input decimal numbers here to represent smaller sizes. So for example, if I put 0.5, this is going to represent half its original size. We look here, you can see it shrinks. Now that's for the x-axis. For the y-axis, all you have to do is input or change this to scale y. Quite simple. Now you can see, now instead of having that horizontal shrink, we're having a vertical shrink while the horizontal distance remains the same. Now, what if you wanted to use both of them in conjunction together? Well, there is actually two ways to do this. Now, what you can do with the transform property is use multiple transforms on the same line. All you have to do is separate them by spaces. So, for example, if I wanted to scale our box horizontally by a factor of 2 and scale it vertically by a factor of 0.5, or basically half its vertical size, we can just write it like that, separated by a space. Now you can see it doubles on the horizontal axis and halves on the y-axis. But there is an easier way to do this, and it's a shorthand that we can use to combine these two together. So what this is called is just scale. So what we're going to do is just type out scale. Now what's going to happen here is we have the x value first. So in this case, it's going to be 2, and then the y value, which is 0.5. And now you can see we get the same result. Now, this space rule still applies, and you can combine the scale transform with other transforms, but in terms of just combining scale properties and transforms alone, this works just fine. And again, if you want to use the shorthand, but avoid scaling in one axis, we can just set a value to 1. So what this is going to do is just scale it to the same size that it currently is at, which just doesn't do anything. Oh, whoops. So you can see there what this does is it scales it on the x-axis by 2, or you can just write this as scale x 2.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be talking about the next transform value or method, which is translation. So what translation basically does is move the element that you're transforming across the x or the y-axis depending on the function you're using, or both.
Okay,
It could
so
be
it's
both
move.
depending on has to do scale related. So as you add potting of 50 to the
Okay.
opposite direction, and talk about our shorthand. You can also
Well,
input negative values to this. So if I give it negative 50
so
pixels,
let's go.
you can see that it'll move the opposite direction. And if
Why is it like that? So X.
you imagine like a mathematical axis with the positive numbers on the right and the negative numbers on the left, then adding a positive value will continue to move it towards the right. So if we go ahead and look at this here, you can see that it is moving 50 pixels.
Oh, because he has translate minus 50%.
Along this axis. So now let's go ahead and try out translate y. So when we do that, you can see that it moves down as well. So 50 pixels down, talk about our shorthand. So what I'm going to do is set it to translate. And here, see, so use, because it's the x-axis, using the values based on percentages. So it's based on the actual element itself. And it all depends on the situation that you're using it in. Sometimes you may want to use absolute values such as pixels, and sometimes you want to use relative values such as percentages here. It all depends on the situation, but just know that these functions, these transform methods, can support both. All right, so
what if I think this is how they built the snack game? When you add in, like when the user click arrow, the pixel on the frame is going to move. Right, it's going to have a translate something. So move up, translate X, and then maybe 5 pixel. When it hold, it's going to move. It's going to iterate infinitely until the user release it. Is that how they make the snake game? I'm not too sure. Maybe it's software, but I think I can make the snake game with that. Yeah, so you basically hold the arrow key, and then when you click the arrow key, it's going to add a CSS class. Okay.
Now it's time for another challenge. What I want you to do is to, and now you get up into separate 25. Let's move on.
Let's move on. I don't really need to know.
Welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be talking about the next transform method, which is rotation. Single property, gradient value, go ahead and to center it. But if I were to remove these, for example, it would rotate along a single axis. So don't worry about that. Just focus on how it's rotating. So let's go ahead and move on. Now, if you want to rotate it the other way around,
he make it really hard for like new student to understand, because he add this translate minus 50, and this it make it hard to visualize, especially when you're new. You don't read like the first few line of this code. It's make it hard to visualize. Alright, I would recommend this. Yeah, just delete that, and now just rotate. Now you understand it. Don't really need to know much, right? Yeah.
Use negative degree value. Please, whatever, when are valid and correct. All right, let's move on.
So skew, this is what
Hello
I don't
everyone,
really know.
it's Leanne from Scrimba here, and there was a technical glitch on Jad's original skew cast, so I have re-recorded it for you here. So, as I mentioned, the next property we're going to talk about is skew, and it's quite hard to understand without a concrete example. But to put it into words, it is rotating something along an axis instead of rotating its face. So if you think of normal rotation is like the clock hands moving, for example, from 12 to 6, skewing is like spinning the entire clock. So to hopefully clear this up, I'll give you a little demonstration. And just like the other rotations, you can either do the x-axis, the y-axis, or a combination of both. And it's a form of rotation, so it uses the rotational units. So let's start with the x-axis. We can do skew x and then 50 degrees. So you can see it moves around almost like a 3D rotation. And of course, you can also do the y-axis or a combination of the two.
Like
so this would skew both axes by 50 degrees.
How to explain this?
Or you can set them separately. And the first one is the x-axis. So let's give the y-axis 20. So there aren't too many cases where you might use this, but it can be handy in some scenarios, for example, special animations, logos, and things like that. I will be using it in a real-world challenge later in this section. But for now, here is a mini challenge. I would like you to skew this box 25 degrees on the vertical axis. So pause the scrim now and
Vertical axis, skew y. Let's do like 25 degree. Minus 25.
and give it a go.
Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be going through and perform. So the challenge goes as follows. You need to create an animation that lasts 2 seconds and runs infinitely. It has
Animation. Let's call this
default timing functions and everything else is default. The only things you need is that the name of the animation is transform. It lasts 2 seconds.
transform 2 second
And has an infinite runtime. So
infinite set.
it runs forever, basically. So this animation is going to scale our box here that we have in our screen, and it's going to take it and scale it down by a factor of 2, which means it's going to half in size.
Half in size. Simple keyframe. 100%. We need to call this transform 100%. Then we do transform scale half in size, so 0.5. Right.
This box is going to be translated 50 pixels to
50
the
pixel.
right here.
So 50 pixel to the right. Translate. Can I do this? Translate. Translate 50 pixel. Translate Y. 50 pixel to the right. There we go. It's moving.
And 0 pixels down. So it's just going to be translated 50 pixels to the right.
To the right, so it's X. Okay. Remove this. This is shit.
And it's also going to be rotated by 45 degrees.
Rotate 45. Okay.
All right. Add this anime code I put in here to center our box in the middle of the page. So don't worry about that. This does work perfectly. So now let's go ahead, and as long as you end up with this result where it's shrinking, rotating, and translating, then you should be fine. All right, let's move on. Hi, welcome back. So it is now time for our third and final challenge, which is to use transforms in combination with animations to animate these boxes here and create a little logo animation using CSS exclusively. So let's go ahead and check out our animation task. Now I've really left this up to you to experiment with the values and see what works best. So a lot of this is really up to the user, or so they look a lot longer from the 9. So adhering to these rules. All right, good luck.
Task is to create an animation that uses transform to animate the logo display on the right. This is shit. Copy this here. Boop. Change it here. There we go. Your task is to create an animation that you transform to animate the logo. Right, so all the boxes. Red box, blue box. Okay. Boxes. Animate the logo display and it should be moved to the middle. Stretch. Okay, so it should translate. All the boxes. Right, they all have a class of box. Translate. So 50 pixel here, 50 pixel X, and then 50 pixel Y. Uh, 50%, and then trans. Why is it only like that? 50, that's 50% here. Basically do the same things. That's the logo. Should be the logo. Logo. That you transform to animate the logo display on the page. It should move to the middle, stretch to the x-axis. Logos. Should move the to elongate. What the hell? Elongate. Long in relation to width. Stretch on the y-axis to elongate the boxes. What the hell? Your task is to create an AU transform to animate the logos. Transform. Run once. Should move to the middle. Should run once. Retain the style once the animation is complete. Retain the style. Let's do 2 seconds. We do 0 second delay. And we do both. Alright, transform. Add keyframe. Transform. We do 100%. Should move to the middle. Right, transform. Translate. Should be the logos, right? Okay, move to the middle. Transform, translate. Then we do this. Then we do should move to the middle, stretch. Scale X to elongate the box. Let's do 50 pixel. How about that? Run. Transform, scale X, 50 pixel. 50 pixel. Run this. Oh, it's already 50. Let's do 200. Run. What is it called? Scaling. Scale X. So let's do 2. Right, run. Scale. All right. And skew the box. Roughly 80 degree from the position of 12. 80 degree. Assuming it's X. Right, run. That looks right. The animation should run once, and so it should go not alternate. Let's do both. Right. So once animation complete, other than that, experiment with the value. Let's do 1. Translate, and then what do I have here? Rotate. Don't need that. The animation should run once. Okay.
Is just use spaces. So let's start with our translation. It's going to happen absolute. Focus on our scale, give it or skew here means clockwise. So see, have the key going to be logo. This is important for making animations look good. If you set the I'm going to go ahead and say tune off if we have this. So let's go ahead and experiment with that. And I'm trying to show you, what kind of skews can really result. That looks it looks a little is great. So change just like our animation looks, and we can even change it for infinite logo animation and just set it to alternate. So what's going to happen is this is going to alternate back and forth just like that, and now we have a nice infinite logo animation. So you can see that based on what you set our properties to and what we work with here, we can change the way our animation looks, and we can even change it for different purposes. So that's really important to keep in mind. All right, so there we go. We have finished all 3 real-world challenges. So in the next section, we're going to go through, explain a couple tips and tricks, extra features that don't really fit into any other sections, but are still really good to know. All right, let's move on.
Okay. Let's analyze this code. So move 2-second ease in out. Let's go back and forth. 1-second delay. Infinite. Let's go up, back. Okay, let's see if I can improve this. Transform 1 second, and then ease in out. Then we do infinite. Alternate. Now I want to scale it by 2. So you want to scale it yet, and a skew for a little bit too much. Let's do 50 degree. Okay. So let's do 25. 50. And then 100. Transform. Scale by 2. Run. Animation, move in, out. Scale X, so 10. Let's do 10. Just go out. What a joke. 50 view width. And then 50 VH. Why is it going out of the frame?
To the rule animation to be. It looked a little weird and kind of stretched out. But when we use this
Skew Y. Why is it skew? Ah. Oh, this is scale X. Scale Y. The fuck?
value.
Infinite, alternate, both. What's it translate? Forgot that. Translate 50. And then what else? Scale X. Skew Y. Oi, oi, oi. Yeah, just I'm done with CSS.
Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be learning about CSS prefixes and what they are important for. So you can see I have a little setup going with some
This
hovers
is
and
what people
transitions.
just use. What does that plugin? Libraries is so much better than this.
And some animations here. Now, although this may work here, on some of the older browsers, so for printing and browser support, that for example, like Internet Explorer or this animation. So there are a couple of prefixes that are used for support the styles we want.
I don't care. Variables. Let's see this.
Hi, welcome back. Street use or line variables. So what you're going to want to use is something called this, the root, just like that. Now, what this is it's basically defining the selector to define right here, this 50 pixels, which is defining our put out in. We do the same thing for the height.
Maybe this would be useful. Variable.
Just like that. And now you can see that we have successfully defined our variable and it works perfectly. Now, if I wanted to maybe change this box unit variable, all I have to do is go to the top, set it to 100, for example, and now you can see it changes both the width and the height. Now, although it may not seem exact same width, it has output on record. Now, again, we will, if you
Custom timing function.
Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to be talking about using something called a cubic Bezier function to going too deep into technical curve on the end point. Curve is defined based on wherever these points are closed. You can replace notice where it opens. So that looks second look. So this pretty much concludes the course. Unless more tips and tricks
my project. This is so boring. Yeah. Maybe learn some JavaScript or React. It's way better than CSS. Oh yeah. I'm going to end the stream here. Yeah, I will do my project tonight.